The stars over the planet Vayara were calm, but the lives of the Thalari people had never been calm. For centuries, they lived in fear of raids, invasions, and betrayals from neighboring species. The Thalari were careful, almost cold in their ways. They taught their children to avoid strangers, to close their doors at night, and to never risk safety for someone they did not know. Trust to them was like fire, useful but dangerous. Among these cautious people lived a family of farmers. Their home was a small cluster of stone houses near the edge of a wide green valley. The father, Arkan, was a man of patience with strong hands from years of planting and harvesting. His mate, Yela, was gentle and wise, her voice often guiding the children with calm lessons. They had two young ones, Relik and Tova, who still carried more curiosity than fear in their hearts. One evening, when the two sons of Vayara dipped low and painted the sky orange, Relik ran toward the field shouting that he had seen something fall from the sky. At first, Arkan thought it was only another meteor, for Vayara's skies often carried falling stones. But the boy insisted. This one did not burn up. It crashed, he said, beyond the northern ridge. Reluctantly, the family prepared a small lantern and walked out together. They moved through tall grass and dry soil until they found smoke curling up against the fading light. There, broken and half-buried in the ground, lay the remains of a strange craft. It was not Thalari design. Its metal was different, its shape unusual. The family froze. Their instincts told them to turn back, to leave it for the patrols, but then Yela heard something. A weak sound. A cry. Cautiously, they moved closer. Among the twisted wreckage, half hidden under metal, lay a figure none of them had ever seen before. The skin was pale, the features unlike any species they knew. The being was breathing with difficulty, its clothing torn and stained, its eyes half shut. "It's alive," whispered Yela, kneeling beside it. Arkan frowned. "We should leave. The council will say this is trouble. An outsider, a stranger. We cannot risk it." But Yela shook her head. "It is hurt. Look at it. It will not live the night without help." The children stood silently, staring at the stranger with wide eyes. Tova tugged at her father's arm. "Please, father. Just for tonight. We cannot let it die here alone." Arkan struggled with his heart. To bring an unknown being into their home was against every rule of safety. Yet to walk away felt cruel, as if he would carry the guilt forever. At last, with a heavy sigh, he nodded. "Very well, but we must be careful. No one else can know." Together they pulled the stranger free and carried it home under the cover of darkness. In the quiet of their house, they laid the being on a resting mat. Its breathing was shallow and its body trembled. Yela worked quickly, cleaning wounds with water and cloth. She used herbs to ease pain and fed drops of broth to its lips. For hours the family watched, unsure if the being would survive the night. When dawn came, the stranger stirred. Its eyes opened, revealing colors they had never seen before, bright and filled with both fear and gratitude. Its lips moved, speaking words none of them understood, but kindness needed no translation. "We will help you," Yela said softly, placing a hand on her chest to show peace. She offered water again, and the stranger drank weakly, then gave a faint nod. Over the next days, the being slowly gained strength. They learned it was called a human. Though they could not speak the same tongue, small gestures and simple sounds allowed some understanding. The children brought food and sat near, curious about everything, from the human's strange clothing to the way it laughed softly at their questions. At night, when the human rested, Arkan worried. "If the village learns of this, they may call us traitors. They will say we endangered everyone," but Yela replied, "If kindness is a danger, then perhaps our people have forgotten what it means to be alive." As the human grew stronger, it began drawing shapes in the dirt to explain its story. It sketched a great vessel, then flames, then falling stars. They understood. It had been traveling through space when its ship was destroyed. Alone, it had fallen to their world. Then, with a stick, the human drew another picture. Many figures standing together, holding hands, facing the dark. It tapped its chest, then pointed to them as if to say, "I will not forget this." Relik whispered to his sister, "Do you think its people are like that too? Do you think they come when one is in need?" Tova smiled. "Maybe they are better at remembering kindness than we are." Whispers began to spread in the village. Hunters saw strange tracks near the ridge. A healer heard rumors of new herbs being bought by Yela. Fear brewed in quiet corners. Still, the family said nothing, protecting their secret. Then one evening, as the sun set again, the human surprised them. Sitting by the fire, it began humming a tune. The sound was unlike any Thalari song. It was soft yet strong, carrying both sorrow and hope. The children listened, spellbound. Even Arkan, whose heart was heavy with worry, felt something move inside him. "What is this?" he asked. Yella shook her head, smiling faintly. "It is music, a gift. Even without words, it speaks." The human looked at them, then placed a hand on its chest again, as if promising something unspoken. By the time the moon of Vayara rose high, the family knew their lives had changed. They had taken a risk, breaking the old rules of fear and suspicion. Yet in the eyes of the stranger they saw not danger, but trust. And though they did not yet know it, their choice to save one human would one day echo across the stars, louder than any song or any war. For in that quiet farmhouse on a small world no one cared about, the seeds of an alliance were planted, seeds that would grow into something neither the Thalari nor humanity could ever imagine. The human stayed with Arkan's family for many weeks. Slowly, its strength returned. Its wounds healed and its eyes no longer looked tired. The children, Rylak and Tova, had grown used to its presence, and even Arkan, though still cautious, found himself less fearful. Every evening they would gather around the small fire, and the human would share gestures and sounds to explain its world. Through drawings in the dirt and broken phrases it managed to form, they learned more about humans. The human drew great cities that stretched into the sky, machines that flew between stars, and families gathered around tables, much like their own. It mimed laughter, dance, and courage, things that the Thalari people often kept hidden under their heavy caution. Yella would often say, "This being carries light in its heart." I feel it, but outside their home danger still lingered. Whispers spread further in the village. Strange lights had been seen in the night sky, and some feared they were invaders. The council began sending scouts to investigate the wreckage near the ridge. Arkan worried that if they discovered the human, punishment would fall upon them all. One night, as they sat in silence, they heard a deep rumble from above. The human's eyes widened. It stood quickly, pointing to the sky. There, breaking through the clouds, came several large ships, sleek, shining, unlike any design the Thalari had seen before. The family froze. Arkan whispered, "The scouts will think it is war." But the human shook its head. It pointed to its chest, then to the sky, and smiled faintly. "Home," it said, in a voice still rough but clear enough. The ships landed beyond the valley, their hulls glowing faintly under the twin suns. Soon after, a group of humans in armor and uniforms arrived at the edge of the village. They carried strange devices and spoke in a language that none of the Thalari could understand. Fear spread quickly. Villagers gathered with weapons, whispering of invasion. Before panic grew, the rescued human stepped forward. Still weak but determined, it limped toward the strangers. The armored humans gasped, rushing to hold it, checking its condition with scanners. There were tears in their eyes, relief on their faces. One of them shouted something into a device, and almost instantly, more humans poured into the area. The villagers expected anger or violence. But instead, the humans bowed their heads respectfully to the Thalari family standing behind. The rescued human spoke broken words, pointing to Arkan, Yella, Rylak, and Tova. "Saved. Me kindness. Family." Though the words were few, the meaning was clear. The rescuers looked at the family with deep respect. They placed their hands over their hearts and lowered their weapons. It was a gesture of peace. Within days, the human fleet set up small camps near the valley. They did not take land by force. Instead, they offered help. Engineers repaired broken wells in the village. Doctors treated the sick. Teachers even began showing the children new ways to learn, using glowing screens and small devices. The Thalari watched with disbelief. For centuries, no outsider had given them anything without asking for payment or submission. Yet the humans came with open hands. The council called an emergency meeting. Some leaders argued, "This is a trick. They are winning our trust to control us later." Others said, "No. They have done more for our villages in 1 week than our neighbors have in centuries." Arkan sat quietly during the debates, but when asked to speak, he only said, "They saved our child by saving a stranger. Sometimes kindness is not a trick, it is a bond." The word spread quickly, repeated in markets and homes. For the first time in generations, the people felt something unfamiliar: hope. Meanwhile, the story of the rescued humans spread across the stars. Humans on distant colonies heard the tale. One of their own had been saved by an alien family who had nothing to gain, only risk. On Earth itself, the story reached millions. Leaders, families, and even soldiers spoke of it. Kindness was shown to one of us, they said. We will never forget. Ship after ship arrived at Veyara, not for conquest but for alliance. Farmers received better tools. Healers received stronger medicines. The sky above the valley often shimmered with human patrols, watching quietly to ensure no raiders attacked the Thalari again. Children in villages began learning human songs. Humans, in turn, listened to the old Thalari chants, blending their voices into shared music. Where once there was suspicion, now there was laughter. But not all in the galaxy were pleased. A nearby empire, known for its raids and cruelty, looked at this new bond with fear. They had long taken advantage of the Thalari's weakness. Now, with humans protecting them, that control was slipping. From their warships, the empire's leaders muttered, "These humans repay kindness with armies, dangerous. If we do not act, the galaxy will tilt in their favor." Rumors of coming war began to spread. Scouts reported fleets moving near the border. Yet when the Thalari heard these whispers, they did not fall into despair as before. They looked to the sky where human ships stood ready and felt a strange comfort. For Arcan's family, life had changed completely. They no longer hid the human visitor, for now their home was often filled with humans coming to thank them, to learn from them, to share meals at their table. Rilek and Tova played with human children who arrived with the fleets, laughing together in mixed words that mattered little because joy needed no translation. One evening, as they sat outside watching the stars, the rescued human, now strong and smiling, spoke more clearly. It looked at Arcan's family and said, "One kindness, many hearts." Then it pointed upward where countless stars burned. Now, not alone. The ripple had begun with one choice in one farmhouse on one quiet world, but the waves of that choice were spreading outward, touching Earth, its colonies, and soon the whole galaxy. The Thalari had once believed kindness was weakness. Now they were learning it could be the strongest bond of all. And in the shadows, the Empire preparing for war would soon learn the same truth. One act of compassion had united billions, and no force in the galaxy could easily stand against that. Part 3. Billions united. The days of peace on Veyara were short-lived. Though the Thalari had begun to trust humanity, trouble was approaching. On the distant borders of their territory, the warlike empire, the Dravic dominion, was gathering strength. The Dravic were known for their iron fleets, for enslaving weaker worlds, and for never forgiving defiance. For years they had preyed upon the Thalari, demanding tribute and stealing resources. Now they watched with fury as human ships hovered above Thalari skies, protecting the once vulnerable people. The Dominion saw their influence slipping away, and their leaders whispered with venom, "The Thalari are ours. Humanity dares to interfere, then humanity will learn fear." One night, Arcan and his family sat with the rescued human, who was now fully recovered, when the horizon lit up with fire. Explosions echoed from the far hills. The ground trembled as distant villages sent distress signals. The Dravic had come. Human patrols in orbit responded quickly. Fleets moved into formation, their engines blazing. For the first time in Thalari history, defenders stood in the skies not to demand tribute but to protect. In the village square, fear grew. The council shouted orders, preparing shelters. Many asked if the humans would flee as others had in the past. But Arcan's family knew better. "They will not run," Yella said firmly. "They came because we once gave hope to one of their own. Now they are here to give us the same." Above Veyara, the battle began. Dravic warships rained fire across the skies, their weapons cutting through clouds. But the humans met them head-on. Lines of shining ships formed shields around the planet. For every Dravic strike, humans answered with fierce resistance. The rescued human, now in communication with its fleet, sent a simple message: "Protect them. They are family." Across human colonies, the message spread. Soldiers volunteered, ships were dispatched, and entire worlds rallied, not because the Thalari were rich or powerful, but because they had once offered kindness when no one else would. That one act now commanded the loyalty of billions. The battle raged for days. Villages shook under the thunder of engines. Fields burned as stray fire fell from the skies. Yet wherever the Dravic landed, human forces met them first. Soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with Thalari villagers, guiding them to safety, defending their homes. Rilek and Tova watched wide-eyed as humans worked tirelessly, repairing broken wells even during bombardments, sharing food from their rations and keeping guards posted through the nights. The children whispered to each other, "They fight for us as if we are their own." Arkin, who once doubted, finally understood. "This is not only war," he said to Yella. "This is a promise kept. One kindness has grown into an unbreakable bond." The Dravik Dominion, however, did not give up easily. Their commanders mocked humanity's resolve, saying, "Why risk so much for weak farmers? Why send billions to protect a handful of strangers?" But when humans broadcast their reply, it shook the galaxy. "Because they saved one of us, and we do not forget." Those words spread like fire across the stars. Other species, long oppressed by the Dravik, began to take heart. If humanity would fight so fiercely for a small family, perhaps they would stand for others as well. On the 5th day of battle, the Dravik sent their largest fleet. The skies over Vayara turned red with their engines. The Thalari Council trembled, fearing the end had come. But humanity answered with even greater force. From Earth, from Mars, from colonies on distant stars, fleets arrived, millions of soldiers, countless ships. For every Thalari village saved, more humans joined. For every Dravik attack, more human voices rose, declaring, "They are not alone." The final clash was fierce. The Dominion unleashed its strongest weapons, dark beams that split the heavens. But humans, fighting not for conquest but for gratitude, fought harder than any enemy the Dravik had ever faced. Ships sacrificed themselves to block attacks. Pilots risked everything to defend the ground below. When the smoke cleared, the skies of Vayara were filled not with invaders, but with human banners, shining bright against the stars. The Dravik fleet, broken and humiliated, fled into the void. Their power was shattered not by wealth or treaties, but by loyalty born of compassion. Silence fell over the valley. Villagers came out from hiding, staring at the human soldiers who stood guard, battered but unbroken. Tears filled the eyes of the Thalari. For the first time in centuries, they felt free, not because of strength they earned, but because of kindness they once gave. The rescued human, standing with Arkin's family, turned to the crowd. Its voice was still rough but strong enough to say the words everyone understood. "One kindness. Saved me. Now billions. Stand with you." Cheers erupted, both from human soldiers and Thalari villagers. It was not just victory, it was a promise of a future shared. In the weeks that followed, Vayara was transformed. Humans and Thalari built together. Schools rose where ruins had stood. Farms flourished with new tools. Children from both species played together, laughing at the differences in their languages but finding joy in their unity. The council declared a new age, the age of friendship. They honored Arkin's family with a monument in the village square, a simple carving of hands reaching across species, symbolizing the bond that had changed everything. And far beyond, across the galaxy, the story spread. Other civilizations looked to humanity with new respect, even fear. They realized that to harm one human was to awaken the strength of billions. To show kindness to a human was to gain allies unlike any other. One evening, as stars glittered above, Arkan sat with Yella and their children. They watched the rescued human walk among villagers, smiling, teaching them songs from Earth. Rilek asked softly, "Father, did we really change the galaxy by saving just one?" Arkan looked at him and replied, "Yes, my son. Sometimes. The smallest act grows larger than we can ever imagine. We saved one life, and in return, countless lives will now be saved." Yella smiled, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Kindness is never wasted. It always returns greater than before. The children leaned against their parents, gazing at the sky filled with human ships guarding their world. For the first time, they felt no fear of the stars. Instead, they felt wonder, hope, and family stretching far beyond their valley. And somewhere in the endless galaxy, the Dravik Dominion nursed its wounds, whispering in bitterness, but also in awe. For they had learned what many would soon know. One act of kindness to one human could unite billions, and that bond was stronger than any empire.